Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of Dark Powerrr, where we cover everything that happens on AEW Dark Elevation and NWA Powerrr. There's a lot to get to this week, so let's get straight to it. Before we do, remember to hit that like button, comment, share, subscribe if you haven't already. It allows us to do what we do for you. Now, there's not too much that happens on Elevation and Dark in the grand scheme of things, but storyline-wise, there's actually weirdly a lot that happens on NWA Powerrr with the introduction of the Championship Series. So let's talk about this. On Elevation, there was a few things that stood out to me, the first of which was the Shida-Tormenta match. They had some nice submission moves, and I really liked this particular submission attempt on Shida. It's not something that you see all the time. Shida was able to get out of it as we kind of expected. Shida is who she says she is, and she was able to pick up the win. But moving onwards, I like it. And as I said it before, when we get AEW talent versus AEW talent, and that's one of the things that stood out to me from this next match we're going to talk about, and that is Angelico taking on Jungle Boy. This match had a little bit of everything. Jungle Boy is somebody who has been getting his due now with AEW for a while, but Angelico still seems to be kind of missing out a little bit. And it's him, Jack Evans, I don't know what exactly is the issue here, but these are two guys who are tearing it up in the ring, and hopefully this is a sign of better things to come when it comes to Angelico. But speaking of storylines that are finally starting to get a little bit of push behind them, we got to talk about Kaz and his Elite Hunter storyline. Now, he's taking on Baron Black here in a pretty good match, and I liked the kind of hard-hitting action that happened in this one. There was some good moments where Baron Black was just taking it to Kaz, and I was even trying to figure out, like, wow, could this be a moment where Baron Black's going to get his first win, or would they do something where one of the Elite comes in and causes a distraction, and that's what causes Kazarian to lose? But no, Kazarian was able to turn it around as we kind of, not expected, but maybe expected. I know I said that just with the Shida match, but you got to have that level of disbelief sometimes with things that can happen, despite the fact that for the most part, these always kind of appear like glorified kind of squash matches. Now, one match that didn't seem like a glorified squash match was when Red Velvet took on Julia Hart. This one I liked because, again, it's a AEW contracted talent. I don't know if Julia Hart is officially signed or not, but she is somebody who is probably on the cusp of being signed. And she had a really good showing against Red Velvet here. She's still very green. I don't know how long she's been wrestling, but she still is very, very green. She did also have a really good showing, I got to say, this weekend at Warrior Wrestling, where my girlfriend and I were, and we were able to see her be a valet in a longer match against Holiday and, gosh, I forget the other guy's name right now. But that one was a pretty good tag match. And here she is putting on a good showing here as she is continuing to learn and develop. But, of course, stir it up. And we move onwards, guys. There's a lot to talk about. So let's move onwards to Dark. Dark had some nice moments. There were only a couple matches that stood out to me, but they stood out for very interesting reasons. So first and foremost, we have Thunder Rosa taking on Kylan King. This one was a nice match. There was a lot of hard-hitting action in this one. Kylan King is somebody who is continuing to develop before our eyes. She's another one. I don't know if she is signed, but if she is, great. And if she isn't, they really got to work on signing her because she can be somebody for that women's division going forward. A low-level face, maybe like a mid-card face. That's something that they need. They definitely need, and Kylan King can provide that. But speaking of women, speaking of the AEW women's division, the second match that stood out to me was when the Bunny took on Big Swole. Now, why this stood out to me is because during the course of the match, Swole has that upper hand, but then Diamante comes out and not necessarily causes a distraction, but gets a little under Swole's skin. And this is a situation where I felt like the match went a little bit too long after Diamante made her appearance, but at the same time, I can't be mad at the fact that they're doing something. Like, they are continuing to try to push storylines on Elevation and on Dark and give people reasons to watch those shows and make them feel a little bit more than just, hey, we got these matches and we're putting them on YouTube for you. And speaking of which, we have our main event of the evening, which was Aaron Solo taking on Dustin Rhodes, a kind of a homecoming for Dustin. They were in, I don't know if Dustin's from there. I know he lives there now, Austin. But this was a nice match and a nice main event. It did feel a little unrelated to one of the EVPs, because I feel as though Aaron Solo is somebody who needed the win a lot more than Dustin did. But hey, that's the name of the game sometimes. But that brings us to the Champions Series. So, I'm not going to lie. I'm super fuzzy on how these rules work. I watched it a couple times. I went back and I was like, what exactly are they saying? And it's not very clear. But I'm sure we're going to get a little bit of a better picture as the weeks continue with the Champions Series. But I can tell you one thing for sure. I definitely was able to follow along for most of the episode when it came to who was picking their teams. So now the idea here is that they're going to take a current champion, pair them with an NWA legend. You'll see why I'm putting that in quotes. And those two are going to work together to draft a team that will face off against each other. Now, the winners of the winning team, this is where I got a little fuzzy. They were trying to say that the winners got a reward. They get a title shot. But they're going to be picking 4 people with an alternate, so title shots galore. And they also said something along the lines of the champion that wins gets some kind of reward. And that's really where they lost me a little bit. But we'll see how it all plays out, particularly because at first I thought, oh, storyline's getting thrown out the window. But by the end of it, I was like, okay, I can kind of see where these storylines are going to continue to move. It's just going to be a little bit more subtlety to it, which has not always been one of NWA's strong suits. So we'll see how this plays out. Now, let's meet our team captains. So first we have our champions, Nick Aldis, Camille, Pope, Aaron Stevens. Okay. We have our legends, Melina, Austin Idol, Velvet Sky, and Taryn Terrell. Here's why it's a little weird. Because they said that they were NWA legends. And the only person who I think could remotely be an NWA legend is Austin Idol. And maybe Velvet, if you go back to the Impact as NWA Impact days, or NWA TNA days. Maybe. And that's a little bit of a stretch. And by a little bit, I mean it's a big stretch. But Melina's not really an NWA legend. And Taryn Terrell is not even a legend, let alone NWA legend. So that part felt a little weird, but then it starts to make sense. You see the point is to help continue to have Taryn Terrell be annoying and to have the captains play off against the champions. All right. Our pairings are Aaron Stevens and Taryn Terrell in a fun little... Taryn's going to talk and Aaron's going to try to get the microphone, but not be able to. Pope and Velvet, the only two that are copacetic and working together. Camille and Idol have a little bit of friction in the beginning, but then they kind of gel a little bit. And then there's Melina and Nick Aldis, who it's really funny that Nick's wife is going to be in charge of the NWA Powerrr, because Nick is basically just sort of telling Melina to go back into the kitchen. It's a little weird, like it's not really in so many words, but it is definitely insulting. But anyway, they have to pick their teams, and the way it's basically a snake draft. But what they do, the way they do it is you're picking a man in the first round, then a woman, then 2 men for the final 2 rounds. So who are our options here? We have Sky Blue, Slice Boogie, Jordan Clearwater, Colby Carino, Crimson, Jack Stain, Kratos, JTG, Genocide, Lady Frost, Thomas Latimer, the Mystery Man, who I'm pretty sure is Robert Anthony, Mims, Trevor Murdoch, Kenzie Page, Jeremiah Plunkett, Saul Renaro, Marsh Rocket, Fred Rosser, and Tyrus, or Turris, as Aaron will say. Now, pick number 1 goes to Pope and Velvet. I'm not going to go through every single pick. Don't worry. because that was basically the gist of this entire 35-minute long episode of NWA Powerrr. There were 0 matches. Pick number 1 goes to Camille and Idol, and in a kind of expected turn of events, Camille picks Tom Latimer. You know that Idol's pissed off because he wanted Tyrus. And that's kind of going to be the theme throughout the course of these selections, is that one captain is going to kind of make a pick for both, and they're not necessarily going to be on the same page. Now, Camille and Idol will kind of get on the same page a little bit after this, but the only team that really works or functions well as a unit is Pope and Velvet, which makes sense. They're both faces. Everybody else is either heels, so they're not supposed to get along, or they're a heel paired with a face, and that's always going to cause some friction. So let's go through and see who exactly each captain and each captains ended up with. So here we got it. We got Camille and Austin Idol have picked Latimer, Kenzie Page, Kratos Mims. Stevens and Taryn Terrell take Tyrus, Lady Frost, JTG, Marsh Rocket. Crimson Sky Blue, Fred Rosser, Slice Boogie, or Aldous and Molina's team. Pope and Velvet Sky take Trevor Murdoch, Genocide, Jack Stain, and the Mystery Man. We see some issues here. We can already see some issues. Aaron did not get his tag team partner. Nick was dead set on not picking Trevor Murdoch. We are seeing some potential pairings down the road for matches. And then this is where it kind of got a little weirder and made what was said earlier, which I kind of understood about rewards, fuzzier. So they tell us that we're going to have two teams matched up against each other. And our first pairing is Camille and Idol versus Aaron and Taryn. And they have to then pick who they want in different positions. And I wasn't 100% sure about how exactly these positions are going to work. I don't think we're getting tag matches, but we are getting for sure singles matches. So the singles matches that we're going to get from KI and AT are Latimer versus Marsh Rocket, Mims versus JTG, Kenzie Page versus Lady Frost, Kratos versus Tyrus. Okay. This one's interesting to me because it's going to continue this Tyrus kind of dominance, and we're going to see what happens if Austin Idol even accompanies him to the ring, or if Idol is putting Kratos in there up against Tyrus for some much more interesting reason. Remember, Kratos is always geared towards money as opposed to winning for the sake of winning. He's there to win, but only so much as it gets him more money or gets him more titles or prestige, et cetera, et cetera. He doesn't necessarily care about the idea of competition. Okay. And that leads us to our second pairing, which is Nick and Molina versus Pope and Velvet. Now, what's interesting here is that storylines that we didn't think were going to be a thing now suddenly become a thing again. We have Sky Blue taking on Genocide. We have Fred Rosser taking on Trevor Murdoch, Crimson taking on Mystery Man, a.k.a. Ego, and Slice Boogie taking on Jack Stain. Why is this interesting? Because Crimson and Jack Stain were having issues just a couple weeks ago, and Slice Boogie was involved. Now, Slice Boogie and Jack Stain, who were kind of appearing that they were like more friends, and there was some issue that was being wedged between Jax and Crimson because of Slice Boogie, they now have to face each other. But more importantly, JTG was up against Chris Adonis for that NWA National Championship. And Trevor Murdoch was on commentary, and Fred Rosser threw in the towel for JTG so that JTG would not have to deal with that master lock anymore. Okay, maybe that's fine. But Trevor Murdoch had a very good point and said, you have to let JTG be a grown-up. You have to let him be a man, and if he's going to lose, let him lose on his own. Now we're going to see Fred Rosser have to take on Trevor Murdoch, and that's going to continue that story. Additionally, if you look at some of the captain issues, there are some issues there as well, particularly in that second block. We have Nick Aldis's team taking on Pope's team. And remember, all Pope needs is one more win on defense of his TV title to be able to cash in Lucky 7, the Lucky 7 series, so he can vacate that title and face Nick Aldis for the World's Heavyweight Championship. So this one has me much more interested, that second block. The first block, there's stuff there, but it's not as meaty or not as substance heavy as it is in the second block. And I'm going to be interested to see how they go forward with everything. And I want to learn more about these rules. I may just have to rewatch the episode or that beginning part to really understand what exactly is going on with this Champion Series. If you guys saw it and it made sense to you, put it in the comments. I also was pretty tired when I was watching this. It was a long day at work. But anyway, until next time, guys, remember to take care of yourselves and each other as we continue on this journey of life. But remember the like button, comment, share, subscribe if you haven't already. You guys can always catch me on Fusion of Honor with my co-host, three-time baby-making champ Ness, as we break down MLW Fusion and Ring of Honor. So like I said, until next time, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and I'll catch you later.